All right, here we are, buddy. We're live 3 weeks in a row. Buddy Sanji's in here with us, and already we've got a Go Tigers from Dalton Barnett. And I was asking Buddy before the show what's the title we put on it, and basically it's been a great week for LSU between Super Bowl winners. Of course, LSU is going to have that no matter what with the players on both teams. LSU gets Brian Thomas, the 4-star wide receiver from Walker. We can talk about that. I was there on Tuesday and stuck to my guns on that prediction throughout the recruiting process, despite a lot of scuttlebutt out there. And then they get Mike Jones, the highly touted linebacker from Clemson, the grad transfer who could have up to 3 years of eligibility. And so now LSU's got one spot remaining for the class of 2021. So, and then you've got some other things. Will Wade last night gets back in the win column with a big win over Mississippi State.
It is amazing, the array of emotions. By the way, you didn't mention the start of the week. Alan Faneca, well-deserved. Yes. Had him on the TV show with you last night. You'll see it on the Pelican. But Alan Faneca, well-deserved, obvious highest award, Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's hard to get in when you're a guard, but Pro Bowls and all the other accolades for him. So it was a good week. Good to see playoff Lenny. Leonard Fournette reminded people of how he played at LSU that sophomore year when he's leading for the Heisman. And then, of course, Devin White, man, to have the incredible honor to ride Daisy May in Tiger Stadium, and now his new horse taking a ride with the Lombardi Trophy at Raymond James Field. And yes, Will Wade with 3 technicals and Trendon Watford. Don't get me started. But yes, a very good week for LSU fans.
You guys, give me a message. They're giving us a little meter on here, which is kind of, yeah, here we go. There's AYS, Blake Ruffino. Haha, this shirt. Hey, Blake, let me know, how's our feed look right now? I know you use this same software. I'm seeing that little Wi-Fi meter that's kind of making me a little nervous, but I think, let me know if our video and our audio looks good, if you will.
This has happened before. I mean, I have a tendency to break some cameras.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah. Let's see. I got a question right here. Henry Gordon Bennett. Hey, guys, do you expect a linebacker from Clemson to be an instant contributor? And why did it not work out at Clemson even as a starter?
You know, Mike Jones Jr. is a guy that, and I was talking to Ed Daniels about that, and when LSU was looking at the film, getting ready to play Clemson in the championship game in the Superdome, he didn't, jump off out of the tape because of Simmons and all those other, Skalski and all those other great linebackers. But he is a much-needed acquisition because, number one, he's got good size. Number two, he can run. And more importantly, Mike, he can cover in space. And if you go back to last year, Damone Clark and Micah Baskerville and even Jabril Cox at times didn't cover great in space. So whether he comes in, certainly will be up to him, what kind of shape he's in, how fast he picks up the defense. But anytime you have a guy that can run and tackle and cover, he's got a chance to play at LSU.
Yeah, no, he's, like you said, his biggest deal is that he can cover. He's very good in the passing game. He can run sideline to sideline. What do you have him listed at? 6'1", 215? 220?
220, something like that.
Yeah, and then Chance Babin immediately follows that up with a related question and says, did Austin Thomas already get his first recruit? And, I mean, this guy goes back to, if you recall when Austin was at LSU, LSU was having the run on recruiting Tennessee kids, and Austin was after him while I was at LSU, and then, of course, he left for Texas A&M and was recruiting him there. The kid ended up at Clemson, class of 2018. And what does it say about a kid who's going to be a grad transfer, and because he redshirted, and then you get the free year of COVID, he could have up to 3 years of eligibility. But hopefully he's so good that you only get a year or two out of him.
It's amazing. Of course, Austin Thomas was heavily involved with Jacob Phillips, who played for the Browns this year and had a nice 3-year career at LSU, and Jacoby Stevens, who stayed that last year. And, they didn't know where to play him. I wanted to see him play a little closer, more in the box as a safety. They played him back deep. That's not his best skills. But Austin's got his hand on those Tennessee backers for sure.
All right, yeah. Our buddy Blake Ruffino at AYS says it looks good, sounds good. All right, Blake, appreciate that.
What's up, superstar? I tell you what, that Blake Ruffino, man, every time I turn in this podcast now, he's got another new sponsor.
Yeah,
and speaking of that,
he's rolling in it.
You got the best right here with Pride Roofing.
Yeah, Pride Roofing, very, very much so. Very much thanks to Pride Roofing. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later in the show, but we very much appreciate them sponsoring us each week. Mike Faraday and Alex Martinez. And got a great special for you to get a free annual subscription to TigerBait. We're going to keep running that until they've given me a number of subscriptions that they'll buy. And all you have to do is call them for a free roofing estimate. They'll come out and give you a free roofing estimate. And if you say you saw it on TigerBait, they're going to give you 1 year of TigerBait for free. They're going to foot the bill for it. So that's a heck of a freebie. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. So Tony Williams says Mike Jones was a great pickup, no doubt. And here we go, Charles Bowden. Great seeing Buddy, the greatest of all time. Yes, indeed.
Well, Charles, I will get you that check sometime later on in the mail. Hey, let's not diminish the impact of Brian Thomas Jr. Now, a guy texted me and said, well, did LSU literally trade JoJo Earl for Brian Thomas Jr.? Had we could have seen Brian Thomas Jr. sign with Alabama because there was a lot of interest there, and JoJo was committed. Nick came in and took JoJo, and LSU got Brian Thomas Jr. What I like is that, as you know, quarterbacks, when they're off, have a tendency to overthrow. And to have a 6'4", 6'3.5" guy is better than having a 5'9" guy because they got a lot of the. Now, JoJo Earl, I think, is going to be special, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. has a chance to be just as good as Terrace Marshall.
Yeah, by the way, you know, I was there Tuesday and we went live. I think that video's, last time I looked, it had like 14,000 views, and that's a big number. A lot of y'all watched it live on TigerBait on Tuesday. But I did read some of the comments, and I could see it scrolling while I was there in the gym at Walker. And a lot of people got an Aggie friend of mine sent me a text. Oh, he looks real enthused to be signing with LSU. And no, and some LSU fans were saying that. It looked like he didn't seem very happy. He's just, I'm telling you guys, Brian Thomas is extremely a shy kid. He's not, if you followed him on Twitter, he's not a guy who tweets a lot. I think he did a little bit more Instagram. But he did a lot of Instagram after he loaded up all his stuff from Tuesday. But that's just him. He's just, I don't think he likes all the attention put on him. And so, no, he is very excited to be an LSU Tiger. He talked about, after he announced and we were live, and then the media that we were there, we got to have him over in a side room and talk to Coach Mahaffey and them and his mom. But one of the things he said was how impressive Jake Peets was, and we've been hearing that repeatedly. When I've talked to recruits, offensive, the current signees, and the entire staff, they're all excited about having these coaches reach out to them. And I think Peets really did some good with Brian Thomas.
I think it's probably the biggest thing that I took from the new coaches and the younger coaches versus the older guys. And no disrespect to Pelini and Linehan and Coach E, who helped win a championship, and Bill Bush and Bill Johnson. But those guys, they don't play the same music that these kids do. They didn't grow up in the same generation or close to that. And Derek Stingley Jr. is excited because Durante Jones called him. He didn't get a call from Bo Pelini when Bo Pelini came here. And so communication and trust, those are the two key things in every relationship. And I believe, certainly, they're off on the right foot, communicating and trusting. And that trust, don't think for a second that LSU defense, and we said it last week, when you give up a record-breaking number of passing yards to a guy that's never played in the SEC and the Pirate at your home field, you don't trust those guys. And so I think communication and trust is something we're going to hear a lot of this year.
Yeah, it's you know, what was just blew me away was, you know, 2 summers ago when they opened up the new football facility and they gave the media the tour. You didn't go on that, did you?
I was on the air at that time.
You couldn't go, and of course, They let the media eat lunch there. Of course, I'm all about the food, so I enjoyed the food in the nutritional center, which is, of course, right up front against the glass, right there on Skip Burtman Drive, looking out them big windows up front. And, of course, I got the soft serve ice cream machine, and I'm like, okay, this part's impressive. They got a guy out there carving roast beef.
Yeah.
They got a salad bar. If an offensive lineman needs to drop weight, they've got somebody back there, grilling him some tilapia or whatever. So that was obviously a big focal point of that tour and a very, big time part of the facility. But the other part was the walkthrough room with the multi-cameras. It's, I don't know how many yards wide, but, you got, hanging by rods, you've got front projectors projecting onto a screen so they can do walkthroughs and diagram stuff, get guys in position, whether it's a bad weather deal or it's just, during your teaching part of the 20 hours you get each week. Blaney didn't even use it. He didn't want to use it.
I did not hear that, but I will say this.
That was like, that to me, that was the number one part of the whole new facility. Everybody was oohing and ahhing about the chairs in the locker room they could take a nap on and folds out into a futon and all that. No, it was that walkthrough room and then the soft serve ice cream.
But I bet you he had the brand new Callaway driver. For all you golf fans. Here's the other thing that I want to play off on that. You talked about that training table and that food that they all got. They didn't have access to that. Mid-March, everybody got cut out of that. And because of that, you got to go to Taco Bell and McDonald's and Wendy's and all the other drive-thrus late at night. And that's why everybody put on weight, including these 20-year-olds.
Tyler Sheldon?
I don't know what.
No, I tell you what. I've been, we take shots at Tyler. I've been hearing some reports about him being in great shape right now.
That's awesome.
So I hope that's true.
I hope that's true. But look, that's the other key point. Tommy Moffitt's got work to do to get those basketballs out the belly. And 92 and 97 and 51 and even Austin Decklish. You got to love the locks and all that. But they played heavy last year. And it'll be interesting to see if they can get that. But I did not know Pelini did not use that that asset, because I've had a lot of people say, "Are you kidding me? 30 minutes and I can show a guy what he did."
Most NFL teams don't have that.
I know, but I can show a guy what he did wrong and then physically move him and make him learn right there when we're having the kind of weather we're having tonight.
Yep, and the climate control. Blake's asked you. Thoughts on Orgeron's comments on Brennan? I didn't get to hear it. I know you got the gist of it. What was the deal on that? He's basically saying that he's looking good, or he feels like he's out there working out, and but I've been hearing that too. But I talked to somebody who's seen him, and there's some trepidation. So there's mixed things there. And look, Orgeron is very transparent, and he's very, a lot of people accuse him of saying too much or, being a little bit too open about things in the program. But sometimes he does tell you some things that don't end up, of course, the big whopper last year, this is the greatest defense we were going to have. And, so I'm not saying that's the case with Miles Brennan, that he's, webbing a weave that's not absolutely true with Miles Brennan and his health and how far along he is, but hopefully it's true. Hopefully he's all there. But I've been hearing some mixed things.
The truth meter on coaches and politicians are very similar, and politicians want to hear tell you what you want to hear, and then they do what they want to do. Coaches tell you what you want to hear. Les Miles one year said, "This is the best offensive line we've got." I think they gave up like 50 sacks. Ed will never live that down. Talking about the defense last year. Look, it doesn't really matter. When spring starts, you've got 3 or 4 guys, how they divvy up the reps, but everybody's at square one because Jake Peets and DJ Mangos and obviously Munoz and whoever else is involved on the offensive game plan and utilization of the quarterbacks and backs and skill people, they will have much tape to look at. But the problem I see is you got 3 or 4 quarterbacks, but you don't have that many set of wide receivers, and certainly you don't have that many set of offensive linemen. So how do you divvy up those reps? I think if Miles Brennan, and I think what I took from Ed, he's getting closer and closer to 100%. But we're not going to know that for another couple months.
Hey, you guys, do me a favor. If you're following us on YouTube and you like what we're doing here, please do me a favor and hit the like button and also subscribe. And if you subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell every time we go live or I upload an interview with an LSU coach or player. You'll get a notification of our newest videos. If you're on Facebook, please do the same. Hit the like button, share it to your Facebook timeline. If you're an LSU fan, there's a good chance a lot of your friends on Facebook are also LSU fans, and would love to have them tune into us as well. But I want to really thank Pride Roofing, our title sponsor, the official roofing company of TigerBait.com. Mike Faraday and Alex Martinez are absolutely superb people. Every time I talk to them, they're opening up a new satellite location. They're in Sulphur, Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, their big course facility in Albany. And of course, he told me the other day they're opening up in Mobile. They're in Gulfport, southern Mississippi. So if you're from Mobile to almost to Beaumont, they've got you covered. Been doing a ton of work in southwest Louisiana with all the damage suffered in that area, Calcasieu and so forth. Give Pride Roofing a call. Best warranty on roofs on their labor in the business. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. Mike Faraday is an LSU grad and fantastic people. When I went there to their facility 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's my understanding that roofing companies are really having a difficult time finding shingles and all the materials they need. They've got so much stock. They've got enough shingles to do 100 roofs of basic middle upper class homes in size and those types of roofs. Fantastic people. Tell them you heard about them on TigerBait.com. Ask for your free estimate. All you got to do is, if you're not sure if you need a new roof or you might be 2 or 3 years away, get the free estimate. Tell them you heard about it on TigerBait.com, and they're going to give you 1 year free of TigerBait. You're going to get an annual subscription. You can't beat that deal. Tell them you heard about them on TigerBait.com, Pride Roofing. I've got their URL in the description down below. Click on it or call the number here, 225-275-2041. And much thanks to Pride Roofing, the official roofing company of TigerBait.com.
At Pride Roofing, we take pride in the way we take care of you. And that is the whole key about people working on your house. You want them to care just as much as you do, because this is something, and I told you, I'm going to have to call them. I haven't replaced a roof in many years, and I'm going to wait to see how much bad weather we have, and hopefully it's not going to be as cold, but they take great pride, and a great name, because they take great pride in the way they treat each and every one of us.
Absolutely. And like I said, fantastic people, A-rated, licensed, bonded, insured. And the thing about Mike and Alex is they're actual contractors. They've actually been up on roofs hammering nails. They know what they're doing. And I can't speak higher of these guys. So give them a call and get your free annual subscription to TigerBait. They're footing the bill. You're going to get TigerBait for a year. So let me get back to some of the questions, see what's stacking up. Esteban, glad to have Esteban with us almost every week. Spring is going to show how much the players are invested into this coaching staff. Hopefully the injection of the youth can reel the players back in.
Yeah, like I said earlier, no disrespect, and there's no reason to beat up anybody that was on the staff that has gone to other ventures in their life. But I think that, number one, they did get a little old in the tooth. And the fact that you told me and educated me that Pelini didn't want to use all the assets that were at his disposal just goes to point out that you can't teach an old dog new trick.
Well, and that's what's crazy to me, because it seemed like I say it every week. Everybody's like, he just was locked in his ways. I'm like, God dang, man. Pelini's only a year older than me. And it's like, man, I know how to work my way around all this stuff that I've got to do on TigerBait and all the electronics. You see me getting set up in here. It's like, man, a lot of it's just user intuitive. It's like, I don't think Pelini's a dumb guy, but why would you reject this new stuff?
Because he's not familiar with it. He's not comfortable with it.
At least have a GA there to do it. Like,
well,
okay, you know what? I don't want to do it, but you know what? I'll get my GA here, and I know what I want to get across, and I'll have him work the remote. Come on.
Hey, Mike, after you get some success and you win a national championship and you get a head job and you all of a sudden are running your own
program, all the
program
answers.
and you're making millions, guess what? That head gets mighty hard. And
that's why I didn't want Will Muschamp. Every time leading up, people talking about going to get Muschamp, to me, there's also a factor of hunger, right? These young guys that are coming in, and this is their crack at it, there's a hunger there for those guys. They want to make a name for themselves. This is their big shot. And, you know, I mean, how much has Muschamp made from Florida and South Carolina?
Oh,
just to go, I mean.
Look, no doubt about it. But I will say this, and none of us know how these young coaches are going to interact with the team, but all of the tape that we've seen, they're rah-rah guys, they're communicative guys, they're high motor guys, and they're going to make it fun again. And I think last year you went to practice and they were thinking, oh, man, listen to this arrogant, stubborn, whatever they called them, and it was work. It's going to be fun again, and when you're successful, then it really becomes fun.
Yeah, no, I think they've got the right mix on the staff. And look, we do this every year. You can say, oh, well, look, you're saying the same thing about Matt Canada. You were saying the thing about Pauline last year. I get it. And look, there is a reason to be upbeat. You always give a guy a chance. But I don't know. I just think I think this infusion of youth is going to be a positive just on that component of it alone. And
it's going to be interesting to see the impact of recruiting as well, because as we know, Brian Thomas Jr. told you, I talked to Jake Peets, and let's be honest, he even mentioned the fact that LSU's got some good quarterbacks to throw the ball around. Come on, you're going to LSU, but your next dream is to get paid. And I've seen mock drafts, and Terrence Marshall is not in the first round, so he might go late first or early second. But Jamar Chase is going to make a lot of money, Mike. And guess what? There was a time there where, remember, he was committed to Florida. Then he was going to commit to what, Texas Tech or TCU on the NFL Network, and that got blown away.
Right.
And then, of course, in due time, they sold him on LSU. The guy had one great year, and guess what? He's going to make $25 or $30 million in the coming months.
What percentage of NFL general managers do you think, or if they had needed a receiver with their top pick, would take Jamar over Devonta?
I'm hearing it seems like there is some concern about Devonta Smith's body holding up in the NFL. So I'm hearing Chase is going to be 5, 6, or 7. Devonta Smith probably 6, 7, or 8. They're going to be close, but look, my point is that just think about what I just said. Jamar Chase didn't catch a touchdown, or had one maybe in his first year. Terrace Marshall didn't catch any as the freshman. Now, after playing a couple years with Marshall and Chase 1 year, they're going to be multimillionaires. And when can you say that about LSU? We saw Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis and all that, but now you got people talking about throwing and catching at LSU, and it started in 19.
Here's one that you talked about before we went live. Let me see, where's it at? Joel Cunningham, how is Bama getting Henry? How do you say it?
I don't know. Toto, whatever.
You got an answer on that one? How they getting him?
Holy cow.
Is there a barber up there?
It's just amazing. I forgot what the analogy I used was last week, but I used the Harvey Williams analogy this week. You remember Harvey and Darrell Williams?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Harvey
Mouth
was
of the South.
Yeah, Harvey was on the interstate going 102 with a blonde in his lap.
I thought that was Victor Jones.
No, Harvey got...
Victor Jones was blowing out the bad gas.
He was blowing out the bad gas. But Harvey had a blonde in his lap and got pulled over 102 miles an hour. Didn't get a ticket, didn't do anything wrong. And he got away with it. You and I would have been thrown under the jail. He's like Alabama. Whatever they were. I've now changed a nickname to Nick Saban. You know what it is? The Honey Badger, because he takes what he wants. And if he wants Henry Toto, he's going to get him. I don't know how they do it. I just wish Alabama would do our taxes, because certainly they know how to bypass every law that's written.
I got an LSU buddy of mine, and I'm always using this analogy with him because it just drives him crazy, and I like to have fun with him. But I always use the Easter basket analogy with Saban. You know, when he comes in and he gets JoJo Earl or, you know, Sopsher or whatever, it's like, and it's not just LSU he does that to. He does it to other state schools.
Anybody they want, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's basically, you get your Easter basket on Easter, and you got the big Easter bunny. You got you know, all the gold brick eggs, the heavenly hash,
right,
the jelly beans, and it's like you're all proud of your Easter basket. You look away for a second, and you come back, and the Easter bunny's gone, and what he's left you with is a bunch of jelly beans that are matted to that plastic grass and the peeps. He's taking your heavenly hash eggs and your gold brick eggs. Yeah, and the big Easter bunny that's, you know. And yeah, I enjoy the Easter basket analogy with Nick Saban.
But I actually saw something about how they have come up and they have bypassed a law, and I saw it was with 3 players, how they actually had, and you talked about the blue shirt and the gray shirt and all of that. You got to say one thing about it. Nick's at the cutting edge. Nick was doing Skype with U-High players before anybody. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so he's always ahead of the curve, but it does seem like there are different rules for Alabama and everybody else in the country, as well as the SEC.
Well, I tell you what, he goes, he looks at the rules, and he looks at the words, and, well, you know, and he figures, okay, well, it doesn't include that, does it? That's a little vague. I think that, you know, he knows every little loop and every little way to stretch whatever he gets, and then he's obviously got a compliance office at the University of Alabama that is nothing like what LSU's got.
No, don't get me started on that one. By the way, his daddy, Toto's daddy, actually said that Saban said to hold off, and he's saying Nick's true to his word, but he told them to hold off. Now, here's the kicker. Herb Vincent was asked this a couple weeks ago. Eric Gilbert, going from LSU to Florida, does he have to sit out? Herb Vincent said right now he does. If Henry Toto signs with Alabama, you can book it that Eric Gilbert is going to go scot-free and play this year for Florida, just like Toto will for Alabama. It's going to happen, but it's the Alabama rule, and you know what? When you make the most money and you have all those Alabama graduates in the office, you get the benefit of the doubt.
I think the SEC office needs to move to Atlanta. It's got to go somewhere. I always joke that if they have dress down Friday, I don't know if there's 40 employees at the SEC office, 38 of them are wearing Crimson Tide gear on Dress Down Friday.
Now let's just make sure people understand.
Herb Vincent's the only one in the building wearing purple and gold.
Well, but we're not going to diminish what they've done on the field, okay? But they do know how to get more out of 25 scholarships in a year than anybody I've ever seen.
Well, and look, they do they're doing blue shirts, and you know, they're not getting away with being able to sign 30, and everybody else in the country has signed 25. You can look at those names, and there's an explanation for a lot of them. So,
and a lot of people say, "Why are you talking about these people all the time?" Well, guess what?
That's your competition.
That's for recruiting, and let's be honest, the SEC West and the national championship goes through Tuscaloosa. If you don't want to hear it, go back to the history. And I
mean, it's just like in 2019 when LSU went up to Tuscaloosa and won that game, you knew they were on their way.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think LSU went into a whole other gear. I mean, they were unbelievable all year long, but after that game, I think they went to another level with the way they played games.
That's because
the confidence level just. I still, you know, if you go back and I got them on my DVR, if you watch, you know, Georgia, Oklahoma, Clemson, I still think, like, of those 3 games, Georgia, SEC championship game, I think the Georgia game was the clinic. Like, that was just precision. Of course, you know, Texas A&M was just, but all the games are that way. But I think they just went to even another level after that Alabama win.
And, you know, the interesting thing here, it was so Joe Burrow-like, as we know, all the things that was said in that locker room, LSU players running to the recruits in the stadium saying, come to LSU, and then Kerry Vincent ridiculously taping and letting that tape get out. But lo and behold, we know that if you're going to win and get into the CFP and play for a chance to play, you got to take down Alabama. But hey, Joe Burrow in 19, this past Sunday, Tom Brady, that's what it takes. You got to have a guy that comes in there. He's confident. He's focused. Tom Brady told his team, we're going to beat their butts Sunday. And I want you to look at me, listen to me, and believe it right now. We're going to kick their butt. And you know what? Joe Burrow, the same thing. After Alabama, everybody was going crazy, including Coach O. Joe Burrow said, the F word. Not the 4-letter one, the 5-letter one. Focus, guys. Always focus. The only time he got off the focus button, when he did this with the ring on the finger in the Superdome.
Yeah.
Look at Brady, though. It takes a great quarterback because everybody follows, Mike.
Let's see. Faye Schubert, always with us. Faye's awesome. The analysts that left after 2019 and some returning this year, ? How crucial is that role to success?
Well, let's give Lane Kiffin a lot of credit. You remember what happened? Lane was over at Alabama. And
with his conversation with Orgeron.
With Nick. And obviously, they butted heads, Nick being the defensive guy, Lane the offensive guy. And Lane was in the process of either coming over here as the offensive coordinator or getting an opportunity to be head coach again. And Lane Kiffin basically told Ed Orgeron, Coach, do you know what Nick has on you? He knows what time y'all go to the bathroom. And so Nick, at the time, I'm pretty sure it was Joe Oliva, went to Joe and said, we got to get more money to pay some analysts. And so now, as we know, they always paid the staff. Alabama and LSU always been 1-2, 1-3, right up there. But now, can you believe, they just hired 2 more defensive analysts that are coming in. And so I don't know, what do they have on that? I think at the time, LSU had 5 analysts. They went to 10. I think they're up to about 20 or 25 right now.
I'm sure someone would fuss at me because I tend to question if there's how much redundancy there is. Is there a number where there's just so much diminishing returns? I don't. How many cooks do you need in the kitchen? If you say, okay, and I'm not picking on LSU, but you can say, okay, what would be one at Alabama? Would you say, okay, Joe Blow's the analyst for the offense. Coach, what did he contribute last year? Well, 2 years ago when we played Ole Miss, he noticed that their left guard, whenever he picked up his hand, he watched it on film, and is it that one little morsel? It's like, is it, because it seems like there's just, I don't know. In my mind, how many do you need? At what point is it a law of diminishing returns?
Well, that's a good question. Alabama has more than anybody, but remember, these guys get $50,000 to $80,000 a year. When you win a national championship, you know how many millions you win? You know how many, and it hadn't been released yet, what LSU won in that awesome year. Now we know that Woodward has thrown around the $80 million loss type of thing, not in the hole, but as far as revenue coming in. But look, I had a buddy of mine when Nick Saban got hired here. Mark Emmert had introduced him. We're going to pay him $1.2 million. Everybody went, what? $1.2 million? And you know what? He was worth every penny. So I understand what you're saying. Is this guy worth it or whatever? But but
then there's also some circumstances where you're like, maybe you've got a position coach that he's more of a recruiter, and you don't think you need someone to help coach that position or whatever, or you've got a coach that became available late, and maybe you want to bring him in and have him behind the scenes, and maybe you only have him for a year as an analyst because he's going to get a job somewhere else next year.
Exactly.
And so I get that. My question is, what is at the end of the day? What is the pot of money that you have for all those guys, and does it keep on growing? Because look, I mean, right now, and I'm sure there's some of you guys and gals in the chat. Right now they're getting hit for the invoices, right, for the season tickets.
Yeah.
We don't know. You got the opt out last year if you want, and you're able to keep your tickets. But you could opt out. They're not going to do that again this year, are they?
I just had a buddy of mine.
I mean, and what's going to be the stadium capacity? Are you seeing any inkling that we're going to be above 25%? I mean, we're going to blink an eye, and football season's going to be here.
Oh, now hold on.
You think we're going to be at 50% in September?
I think it's hard to put a number on it right now, but everybody's saying they're going out to California, and they've been as wacky as anybody with the politics and shutdowns. But look, I wanted to mention Will Muschamp's an analyst at Georgia because his son is walking on over there, and Bill Bush, who we both had a lot of respect for, and one of the main reasons Joe Burrow came here, got a gig at Nebraska as an analyst. So you make a good point. Somebody sometimes comes in, he works a year or two, stays in the game, and then he may get another coaching opportunity. But look,
or you elevate him.
I'd rather have more analysts and fat there than not have enough. When Lane Kiffin said, Ed, you got 5 or 10, and Alabama over here is got 30 or 35. And so it's so competitive because you want to have every little morsel of information at your disposal.
Yep. Let's see. Any more questions? Alan Faneca, what was that interview like? How did that go? You didn't tell me about it.
Yeah, he was really a class act. Of course, the first 5 years that Alan Faneca was up for the Hall of Fame, they bring you to a hotel. And David Baker is the president of the NFL Hall of Fame, and he comes.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the video.
Knocks on the door. Well, this year, because of COVID, they didn't put him in the hotels. So he literally got to knock at his house. And so he said he was having a discussion with his brother-in-law and his wife, and they went to back bedroom or something, and Alan's going like, this is weird, what's going on? And the next thing you know, he saw all the trucks and the microphones and all. He heard the knock, and it was really well-deserved.
Did he get emotional?
Most
guys get emotional.
I think, and I asked him about the speech and all the other things, and yeah, I asked him, who's the first guy to call you, former player? Said Ben Bordelon, former teammate, was the first guy. We talked about Bo and him being a commitment and all that. But look, great to see Kevin Mawae get in. Great to see Alan Faneca get in. And you know who else is going to get in? I think Andrew Whitworth will be a Hall of Famer when he decides to retire. I think he's got one more year.
Not talking about NFL career, but as far as LSU career, who is the best offensive lineman in history? Is it Faneca?
Well, he's certainly there. Now, you're going way back. Lance Smith was a good lineman. Dr. Joseph Albergamo, Eric Andelsek. I mean, look, there are some great offensive linemen.
Is there a debate down the line? Faneca or Whitworth? If you combine NFL careers.
All I can remember is that all of us that were in the stadium the night they beat number 1 Florida in 1997, and seeing him leading Herb Tyler down the right sideline for a 40-yard touchdown, and Faneca running the whole way with him. That was a special night. Carl Reese had the Bandits package, and of course Cedric Donaldson.
Shiny Pants Spurrier.
Yep, Shiny Pants Spurrier finally got beat, and that was certainly one of the best wins in Jerry DiNardo's tenure, and we'll have him on tomorrow for a short chat. But look, Todd McClure was another great offensive lineman. The late Ruffin Rodriguez, you can go on and on and on. Many offensive linemen, but Faneca is certainly in top 5 discussion.
Jonathan Burris, if people get vaccinated, stadiums should be full. I don't know if that's going to be the logic. I mean, I'm watching the news and seeing what's coming out of Washington, D.C. and the White House, and they're talking about, you can get the vaccinations, but there's still going to be the masks, and there's still going to be this and the social distancing. I don't see where any of that's going away.
Well, I'll say this. When it first hit us, and of course we went to the first 2 spring practices, and then I think you and I were both on our way, and you said, turn around, they're not going to let us in. That was the 3rd practice, it was on a Saturday, and then they shut it down. Did anybody have any inkling that this thing was going to go on?
Well,
I don't think anybody really knows.
I got invited to a combine, a camp in early June, and I'm like, well, I'm looking at the dates, and I'm like, well, that's normally when an Ed Orgeron camp is. But we don't know.
No.
We don't know what's going to happen.
But I'm going to agree with Jonathan here. I think once we get a majority of the people in this country vaccinated, I do think we're going to have some confidence. I'm not going to touch the political thing and how much it's going to be held up or pushed one way or the other by the left, the right, or the middle. But let's just hope we can get back to some semblance, because it's just not the same when you don't have a full stadium in Tiger Stadium or wherever.
Ronald John Elias, anywhere on investigation? Ronald, I'm assuming the Title IX. Not knowing when the Will Wade thing is going to come about, but Title IX, 2 days ago they were asking the students for their input. So I'm assuming maybe we were told February. So we're not to the midway point yet, but there's 28 days in February. So we'll see what comes of it. After the USA Today hatchet jobs and ran 2 of them, and the second one really didn't have much more information, but it was sure to look like it was there to see if they could do some damage before signing day. I one by one, people would say, boy, Verge is in trouble, or Sharon Lewis, she might be in trouble, or Miriam Seagar, and people were just naming names, Mickey Joseph, and because their names all appeared in different articles. And I'm here one by one. I don't think there's going to be any. I don't think there's going to be heads that roll. I think there's going to be somebody that's going to, they're going to say, look, we made a mistake here. This particular phone call should have been made, or this type of paperwork. But in the end, I always go back to this, and it's a touchy subject. And you got to, in this woke world, we really got to watch how we discuss things. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's a police matter, right? You got to call the cops.
Yeah. Well, it's going to have a lot of bad negative publicity for LSU, and we know that. To what extent and what repercussions follow, I think, is just a crapshoot right now. The other thing I think that we took from Jacques interviewing Scott Woodward is that this really falls more on Les than Coach O. But Drake Davis and Darius Geis and all these guys, it's going to be a bad look. They were able to overcome it with the first signing period, which is when this stuff started, and able to win their last 2 games. And I'm in agreement that it's not anything that you want to brush aside.
And by the way, I can just tell y'all, and I talk to parents, and I have not heard where that stuff has had any effect on LSU recruiting.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've got, certainly it's had to have come up, and maybe they've got they've got a way to address it with recruits, but I haven't seen where it's been a factor.
Yeah. Well, I remember many years ago, Nebraska had a pair of twins, and it was Blockbuster time. This is a long time ago, and they got accused of rape and all that. Unfortunately, it happens too much with testosterone and alcohol and bars and all the things that happen in college, and it's going to be a bad look for LSU. Let's just hope that the repercussions, and let's also pray for those that have been affected on the wrong end of it as well.
Yeah, MFT's having a little fun. Made a mistake, laugh online, and he's calling as LSU get hammered for covering up rapes. I'd have to go dig up MFT. Might be an Aggie, but yeah. So let's see. Any update on Elias Ricks? Have you heard anything new?
I have not heard anything on Elias Ricks other than the fact that...
and when is he Elias and when is he Eli?
I don't know.
Is he in trouble with his mom when he's Elias? And is he Eli when he's doing what he's supposed to be doing?
I saw him at Der Wiener Schnitzel about a month ago, and they did not put any extra mustard on his hot dog. He has had a tendency to high step it, and we love his capability in a big play. But guess what? He's got swag. He's got a brand. He's got to promote himself. Man, you see me high stepping? By the way, I got away with that not once but twice. And oh, by the way, Trendon Watford with his 3rd technical foul here in about a week or 2. What's the biggest thing that a coach has? Okay, PT. and you sit a guy down and you discipline him, because if you don't, everybody's going to do it. Back to Eli Ricks, I do know he got a little upset when they chewed on him, and rightfully so. They should have chewed on him. But everything right now, you hope that he comes back. And I think people will be talking about Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley Jr. as two good best corners or cover corners in the country. Then you got to throw somebody in, whether it's in the Sage Ryan or whether in the nickel. But that's a hell of a tandem, Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley Jr.
I sure do wish that you had more coaches in college sports these days that had a little bit of, maybe a little bit of Bobby Knight and a whole lot of Bill Parcells in them. There just seems to be too many good cops that are just, what these kids get away with, and the way that they've got to walk on eggshells, and it's just, I don't know if they ever get a handle back on it. It just keeps trending more and more in that direction.
It really is. You got to have a psychology degree, and you got to know who you can pat on the back and who you can kick in the butt. And I don't mean that literally, because you can't put your hands or your feet on anybody. But let's just hope that the young man, along with the rest, and I'm going to predict it right now here on this February 11th, Derek Stingley Jr. is going to look a lot closer to the way he did as a freshman.
I think so.
Than he did last year. This is his money year. He's going to be confident. He's going to be all over that field. I hope he's not a punt returner. I don't think he, all of these receivers he's got to cover, I didn't think he got better as a punt returner the last 2 years, so I hope that take that away from him. But that guy is going to have a hell of a year if he can stay healthy.
Glenn Thomasy, our wide receiver room is going to be stacked with sick talent, no doubt, man. 5 wide receivers, and of course, people say, well, what are they going to do with Jack Besh? Bottom line, when you start asking, I know Gilbo asked me to give him last week 5 contributors. I think Jack Besh is in the top 5 of guys who are going to have a significant that you're going to see a good bit of reps from during the football season. But yeah, I mean, the wide receiver room is absolutely going to be fantastic, and got a lot of work with. I mean, between the quarterback spot, running backs, that running back room is stacked. Offensive line with everybody returning, and then you're going to possibly be able to work in some depth. So, man, I'm not seeing question marks on offense, other than you got to have some competition at quarterback. We'll see who wins the job, who's the number 2. Running backs, I mean, Kevin Falk's got a good problem. Mickey Joseph's got a good problem. And Mangus is a passing game coordinator. So, I think it's going to be an incredible offense. I thought, well, what about Peyton Todd? Is he going to be a guy, because he's going to be a punter, and my LSU source says we don't plan on punting a whole lot.
Well, back to the wide receivers, I think we spit it out the other day. It's like 11 players. I mean, we all know about Kayshon Boutte and what he did at the end of the season. Jaray Jenkins was a big surprise for me. I liked his ability to go downfield and catch the football. Trey Palmer got to catch the football with his hands and not let it bounce off his body. Obviously, Jontre Kirkland is a guy that came back for an extra year, looked good against Vandy, but struggled in others. But you got a lot of potential. Alex Adams didn't play last year. Obviously, Coy Moore was a solid receiver, and then you're bringing in all these other guys. Don't forget Trey Bradford. They've talked about cross-training him as a running back, as well as throwing to him the ball and having him in the slot. And man, you mentioned the running backs. I think that TDP, Tyrion Davis-Price, and John Emery are going to be pushed a little bit by Corey Kiner and obviously Armani Goodwin. So
Armani Goodwin.
I like all this competition to make everybody better. But if you can get consistency throwing the football, and that's what we like about Brian Thomas Jr., Mike. He gives them another 6'4" guy that can go up, and you can utilize him, especially with his athleticism in the red zone.
Brett Garofalo, Mike, is his class now finished with recruits? They've got one more left that they can use. I don't know when they're going to use it or how they're going to use it. Just logic tells me there's probably going to be a defensive player, whether it's another linebacker or would it be a corner. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how they end up using that late. So, go through spring practice. I see another question. Have they announced spring practice dates yet? No. Dane Bergeron, hello, Mike. I like the new staff. LSU is set for a great season in 2021. I'm high on them. I say they're a solid number 2 in the West, ahead of A&M, and I like the schedule. And I think if LSU was an SEC East Division team, they'd win the East. So I know Georgia's got a bit there, but I think LSU could go is 10-2, 11-1 next year.
And you know, we've knocked this around a little bit on a variety of shows. Where are they going to be ranked in the preseason? I'm thinking 12, 13, or 14. Some magazines will have them 9 or 10, but look, they're going to have a chance to. And I just hope for all those people that didn't get a chance to go to the Rose Bowl when UCLA upset USC years ago. We all had our bucket list trip to Lambeau. But I had a trip lined up to go to that Rose Bowl with a travel agency, and lo and behold, that didn't come to fruition. I
want the Vegas. You mentioned the Jacques Doucet interview with Woodward. I want that Las Vegas trip.
Well, that's down the road now. The only way that would happen is if they would find out early enough that California is not going to let them play in the Rose Bowl. But you said that the percentage. I'm with Jonathan. I'm hoping that with the vaccines and all this, we can get back to at least 75, 80% because this is all these cardboard cutouts in these stadiums. I had enough of them, even though they look good.
Yeah. Randy Farr, good news is they all return, and the bad news is they all return. That's
on what?
The offensive line. That's been kind of always what I say. L wasn't impressive last year. I think they played a lot better later in the year. And I do think now that if keeping a positive attitude that everything's going to get back to normal with a full spring practice and being in the actual LSU weight room, which I don't see any reason why that's back where they're supposed to be on a daily basis in the program. I think that they're going to be even better. So
Brad and I used to always talk about this. James Craig and the LSU offensive line coaches always want to get too deep at every year. That's 10 offensive linemen. But you know what invariably happens? They get one guy that can play center or guard. They get one guy that can play tackle. And they get another guy that can play tackle or guard. And so they usually have 8. I'd love to see them have 10 so that if you get a guy who's hurt, it doesn't disrupt. And let's give James Craig a lot of credit. He's had a lot of injuries, mixing and matching. And, you know, if you want to be honest, Joe Burrow's the reason they won that Joe Moore Award, because he made a lot of plays with his feet.
John Marion, why are you guys, TigerBait, so high on TJ Finley? What do you see in him that he can compete at LSU at a high major school?
I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, well, because it's not that I'm saying TJ Finley is definitively going to win the job. What I'm saying is that there's too many LSU fans that have already dismissed him and ready just to move on, and they're counting the days when they are just knowing that any day now they're going to look up and they're going to see a tweet that he's in the transfer portal. I think people are making a mistake in saying that he's not going to be a factor in the competition. That's where I'm saying about Finley. I talk to staffers. I talk to guys in close to the program, and they all believe that this offense that Pete's is going to run is tailor-made for TJ Finley. And the stuff that aggravated folks last year with TJ Finley are all things in my mind that can be corrected. So I'm not saying he's going to win the job, but like when I look at my poll on the front page of TigerBait.com, and the question is, who do you think is going to be the starter against UCLA? And I have all 4 quarterbacks listed there. And the current results are, let's see.
Max Johnson.
53% say Miles Brennan. 42% say Max Johnson. 3% say Finley. And 1% say Nussmeier. There was a period early on where Nussmeier had more votes than Finley. And Nussmeier rolled in at 172 pounds.
Well, don't get upset. He'll get his chance. But I brought number 15
I'm not
over
upset.
here. I brought number 15 to put a vote in for Miles Brennan. I hope that the young man gets 100%. But if I had to go to Vegas and bet who would start at the UCLA game, I would go with the lefty, Max Johnson once again. I just like the fact that he is a coach's son. He has the it factor. He's got some escapability. Did have one interception, I think about 8 touchdowns. And I think the team kind of rallied around him, to go over there and beat Florida.
My point is and look, even though I'm talking the way I speak about TJ, I think had Max Johnson started the A&M game, they won that game.
Yeah.
I believe that. So I'm not saying, but my point is, if you want to talk about just from throwing the football, making all the throws with the velocity, the deep balls with touch, the accuracy, TJ Finley might be the best guy on that of the three. And I'm not putting Nussmeier in the equation yet. And I think Brennan is second, or they're close. Or maybe it's Brennan 1, TJ 2. But Max, like you said, though, there's the intangibles. It's not always necessarily about the arm strength and this and that. So bottom line, though, is it's a good problem to have.
It is. And
LSU wins no matter what because they've got some guys to work with. So
well, look, I'm not going to debate you on that.
And I can tell you, Pete's and them are they're coming in with an open mind. They don't have a preconceived notion about TJ Finley.
Yeah. And it'll all work out. It's not something that anybody on the outside can control, but as long as everybody gets a fair chance, and that's the thing I think will be a key. How are you going to divvy up the reps to give everybody a fair chance in the spring and the fall camp?
All right, man. We went a full 55 minutes. Let's see if I get some more in here. And while I look for some other comments real quick to wrap up, but guys, do me a favor. Go to TigerBait.com. We want to have you as a premium subscriber. I've got a recruiting update coming tomorrow on Jamon Tapp from Ascension Catholic that LSU offered weeks ago. And really a player that I wish I would have been able to see last season. His film looks awesome. COVID took me away from them in the shortened season. That was one of the games I wanted to get in. But I'll have that update tomorrow. But go to TigerBait, choose the annual package. It'll save you basically get 3 months free. And again, like, share these videos on YouTube or Facebook. Very much like having you. Let me see if I got one more. Dane likes your points on Max Johnson, buddy. And
by the way, shout out to Hurricane. I did not know he had messaged in during the show. So Hurricane, good that you're still around. And look, as always, folks, stay safe because we can't afford to lose anybody.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out. I was COVID is real, folks. I was at family before going live tonight. Shout out to our folks, my cousins and Jake and Natalie and Allison. And of course, somebody you went to high school with, we lost. So it's real, and take precautions.
Dan Nola, brother, Nola to the Gola, you were a great one, and a real shout out to Natalie and the obit on Dan. And he never met a stranger. And I got my hat on here. What's it say, Mike? Lucky dog, life is good. Cherish every day you have out there. Make sure, guys, just one little reminder. If mama ain't happy, nobody's happy, and Valentine's is Sunday night. So if you're procrastinating, get it done because let's be honest. Can you imagine if we didn't have the great women in South Louisiana and all in the area that we live in? They bring so much to the table, and they put up with guys like you and me.
Exactly.
Even though you and I are probably having the same disease called no marriageitis. But take care of your better half, guys.
No doubt. And you guys have a good weekend. We'll be back next week. And go to TigerBait and subscribe. We want to have you as a subscription. By the way, you can get on for $1. $1, you can try us out for a week. But choose the annual package when you do that. And we want to have you. So we'll see you next week. And we have a bunch of stuff coming on TigerBait.com. Thanks for all you guys that participated tonight. And thanks to Pride Roofing as always.